How's everybody out there in YouTube land today? I hope this finds you well. It's time for another exciting episode of And That's Why I'm Still Single. I had a couple of these episodes transpire when I was meeting some fellas there on the internet in some of these chat rooms where they would talk a good game on the internet or even on the phone. They'd give you a telephone call, several telephone calls, but they never ask you out. They never want to actually meet you, go out any place with you. Now, actually, three of them's coming to mind now that I'm thinking about it. The first one was this fella, he called me up. He wanted to talk to me all the time, He seemed a pretty friendly dude. But he was extremely religious. He wanted to go to church, wanted me to go to his church. And I said, well, listen, before I would ever agree to go to somebody else's church with them, I'd want to know them real well before that happened. And, we'd have to meet and get to know each other. I said, but, I'm not basing my relationship with somebody on their church affiliation. And I don't want to get involved with their congregation and all that. If something went awry with the relationship, that would make it more complicated. And I'm not into complications. And so he stopped calling me because he couldn't talk me into going to his church with him. He had a couple of issues that I was kind of raising my eyebrows about just talking to him on the phone. One of them was that his house was ate up with vermin and he couldn't seem to figure out how to get rid of the vermin. Now that's a problem for me because I don't put up with vermin in my house. Another guy, he liked to talk to me all the time on the internet. He'd call me occasionally. He'd talk about dating. Like, if we ever went out, this is a restaurant that I'd like to go to with you. But he'd never actually ask me out on a date. And through the conversations that we was having, I found something fairly alarming about him to me. Maybe this wouldn't bother you, but to me, this was a problem. Dude was living with his ex-wife and her new boyfriend. Who does that? Get out and get yourself a life. Why are you still in the same house with your ex-wife and her new man? Oh, no. And then there was another dude that he liked to call me up and talk to me all the time. Was real friendly. We was phone friends, I guess. And then one day, he sends me a message on the internet and he says, hey, I met this really nice lady. Huh? And he sends me her picture. Okay. And so I said, well, good for you. I'm glad you met somebody that you like. And he said, oh, yeah, she's real nice. He says, we went off on a weekend together last weekend. And okay. And the thing that's running through my mind is, why are you talking to me about her? And I told him, I said, well, that's nice. I'm glad you met somebody. And, I made my excuses and I got off the chat. And a few days later, he messaged me something else. And so I said to him, hey, I got a question for you. I'm not one for beating around the bush about things. So I'm just going to come right out and ask you. I said, we've been friends here chatting, even on the phone and on the computer for a while now. You have never asked me out on a date to go anywhere or anything with you. And then you meet this gal and you feel so inclined as to tell me that you've met this gal, you're happy with this gal, you've been off on a weekend excursion with this gal. But you never asked me out on a date or anything, and now you're starting to tell me about her. What's the deal here? I don't get it. And he says, well, I never asked you out because you didn't seem to ever be interested. You seem to be pretty happy on your own. Yeah, I am. And that's why I'm still single.